And welcome to the El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce's Election Chat, brought to you with KTSM 9 News. I'm Daniel Marin. Thank you for being with us. Let's send things over to my co-moderator, Mike McQueen. He's a local attorney and the El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Board Chair. He is starting us off with our first guest, incumbent Mayor Dee Margo. Hello, gentlemen.
Thanks, Daniel. Mayor, it's good to see you. You've been the mayor now. You've been in office through some of the most tumultuous times in El Paso history. What makes you want to do this again?
You know, sometimes I'm called crisis boy. The last 2 years have been unique, as an understatement. We started out with the immigration crisis. We became ground zero in the national media for immigration. I had no training for that. And then August 3rd hits, and as I used to tell Chief Allen, I said, you know, you have active shooter training, but I don't. I didn't. And then we hit the pandemic this year, probably officially about March 13th. I'm committed to this community. I love this community. It gave me roots. I kind of grew up moving every 3 years until I met a young lady in college who's a third generation El Pasoan, and we've now been married 44 years. My grandchildren are fifth generation El Pasoans, and I want to make sure we complete the tasks. We've got a lot of challenges before us, especially with this pandemic, and if there's anything I think I know that will bring us out of it is jobs and investment, capital investment, and I think if there's anything I do know and have experience in, it's that area. So the bottom line is, I want to complete the task.
Mayor, if I could jump in, what are some of the things that you love about El Paso, and what are some of the things that keep you up at night about the city?
Oh, Daniel, I like the people, the culture, and the climate. For sure, I've become a desert rat. I don't want to leave. And as I just alluded to, the things that I guess you'd say that keep me up at night would be this pandemic and its impact on our physical health, financial health, and our mental health. And I've said on several occasions, we are not going to be able to, quote, reopen our economy, unquote. We're going to have to rebuild it.
Bringing in the Amazon Distribution Center was a tremendous achievement, a tremendous success. If you're reelected, do you have other initiatives, or what initiatives would you have to bring in other companies with high-paying jobs?
Well, we're working very closely with the Borderplex Alliance, which is our private sector industry recruitment for Juarez, El Paso, and southern New Mexico as a region, which I think is critical for us. I mean, we have 50,000 jobs in El Paso tied to the Maquilas and Juarez. I know that some of my opponents in the race are saying only go for El Paso. Well, I think that's myopic, limited, and ludicrous.
Mayor, what industries, new or existing, are you trying to attract to El Paso? I guess specifically any companies, what would be on your wish list?
I mean, there are a number of companies we're looking at. I can't disclose the names right now for confidentiality purposes. And what we think for the future is this nearshoring or reshoring from China, and having manufacturing firms or distributions firms, logistics firm, warehouse distribution here is a real opportunity. You know, we're the largest U.S. city on the Mexican border, so a lot of the businesses that are looking at us as an international location. And you know, Tesla's announced that they're moving to Austin. We've been in contact with some of their suppliers who may want to locate here. So we're doing all we can. I meet with as many businesses and CEOs as I can, and work through it, because I think that's the job of our mayor.
Mayor, you know, the protests are continuing around the country in places like Seattle and Portland, and one of the things the protesters have been calling for is defunding of police departments and things like that. What are your thoughts on the El Paso Police Department's budget, and do you think it should be defunded?
Well, the easy answer is no, and public safety is 62% of the city's operating budget. And this year, for police and fire, we increased that budget 3.9%, or $5.8 million. We're going the other way. And frankly, when you think about the response of our police and fire and first responders on August 3rd of last year, we were lauded our community knew. The response was phenomenal. Police side, I believe they hire properly for character, and that the training is unsurpassed. The fact is, I do know that our training academy is visited by cities from all over Texas to see what we do and how we operate. So we set a standard.
Mayor, sticking on the topic of police, I know it's difficult to deal in hypotheticals, but say there's a situation where an El Pasoan is either severely injured or killed as a result of police brutality. It gets widespread attention to the level of, say, a George Floyd type of story. If reelected, how do you handle that type of situation?
Well, I don't think it's changed from where I am today, and should I be reelected. I believe that we have, as I alluded to, I believe that on the police side, Chief Allen and his organization is well led, that they hire for character and they train appropriately. I believe that we are doing the things we need to do. We continue to analyze the process. I hear from Chief Allen and his staff about the things they're doing. We are doing some cutting edge things. We do have a citizens oversight. We're talking about expanding that to where council can have more say and expanding that. But the real thing, if an incident like that happens, the first thing you do is you investigate, get the facts, and then get them out to the public where people understand. And frankly, from the tragedy of August 3rd, that's what we did.
Mayor, Daniel talked about hypothetical questions, but let me ask you one. If the city council were given $1 million to spend however they wanted to do it as a grant, and you could arbitrarily decide how to apply it, what would you do with it?
Oh, two priorities come to mind. Number one, we need more body cams for the police, body cameras. We don't have enough. I've asked our Congresswoman to help on that from a federal standpoint, and some of the we have, I think, 34 body cams, and they're with the crisis intervention team, which does mental health response for de-escalation, and we started that after I became mayor in 2017. And the other is the DUI task force. We have body cams for them, but otherwise we haven't had the financial resources available to purchase the body cameras and maintain the data storage. The cost of body cams is not the camera itself that the police officer carries, it's the data storage and the length of time you must keep it. That is the most expensive portion. I've been talking to the mayors of Fort Worth and Houston about what they're doing and how they're paying, how they allocate that and do that. And the other area that comes to mind is just streets. We did something like 66,000 pothole repairs last 3 quarters, and we bought, when I became mayor, we bought I think 2 or 3 new pothole repair machines, but we're trying to do more resurfacing and things like that. We've got $600 million in projects for streets, and we allocated on our budget this year $10 million for streets, and previous budgets had never had anything allocated for streets. They were doing debt through collateral obligation bonds. So we've tried to upgrade and do the things we need to do.
All right, El Paso Mayor Dee Margo, thank you so much for joining us. And you can find our extended conversations with all of the candidates on the El Paso Hispanic Chamber of Commerce Facebook page, as well as the KTSM Facebook page. Right now, though, former El Paso Mayor Oscar Leeser looking to reclaim his seat. He was unable to join us in the studio, but Mike and I caught up with him via Zoom.
Oscar, the first question I want to ask you, you've been a successful businessman and then you ran for mayor and by all accounts, everything was going great, and then you chose not to run for re-election, but now you're coming back and running again. Can you explain why you didn't run the first time and what makes you want to run now?
Well, thanks. First of all, I want to thank you for the acknowledgement that things were great. The economy was doing wonderful. The unemployment went from 9 to under 4%. We had actually had a lot of companies come to El Paso, and our community was on the move. So unfortunately, I had some health issues that were very serious, and I ended up having some treatments done, and those are behind me now. I feel wonderful. I feel great, and I'm prepared and ready to lead the city again. And one of the things that's it's important that today I am a cancer survivor.
Mr. Leeser, I know you're asking us to call you Oscar, so I will.
Please, I was going to say, please call me Oscar. It's,
okay.
I tell everybody, and it's something really important, that When I ran for office, I was Oscar. When I was in the mayor's office, I was Oscar. And today, when I left office, I'm still Oscar. And it's important that I continue to be myself.
Oscar, given the situation with the pandemic, obviously this is unprecedented. Nobody saw this coming. What are the tools that you would need as mayor to keep these small businesses afloat?
Again, it's basically the same answer we just talked about just now, that we need to make sure that we go out and look at their needs, look at the wants. These are the backbone of El Paso as the small businesses. So we really need to make sure that they survive. If we're going to continue to bring business to El Paso, we're going to continue to grow. We need to make sure, number one, we're a safe community, and number two, that they survive and stay in business to continue to grow.
Oscar, you know, one of the things that's been in the news a lot lately have been the protests around the country with regard to police brutality. And one of the things that the protesters have raised has been defunding the police. How do you feel about the concept of defunding the police?
Well, I don't believe we should defund the police. It's really important that if you look back, El Paso has been one of the safest communities in the country for many years. And we need to continue to protect and make sure that we are the safest city in America. So we need to fund it properly and make sure that they have proper equipment, and make sure that the equipment that's purchased and bought is part of our budget. Make sure that we have a budgetary item that is put into that every year we're able to continue to grow and continue to provide, so make sure that we have proper training, and make sure that we have an oversight group, which is set up by the Citizens Committee, and it's assigned by City Council and the mayor to go out and talk and bring the biggest issues back to our city. So it's really important that we fund it properly and give them the tools they need to make sure they continue to protect our community.
Oscar, if something were to happen in El Paso, let's say somebody gets severely injured or maybe even possibly killed by police brutality, and we get a bunch of media attention, national-wide media attention, something to the scale of George Floyd, what happened with him. As mayor, how would you handle a situation like that?
Well, first of all, we need to make sure that we're proactive prior to that. The proper training, the training of our officers to make sure that they're ready for any situation. And I think August 3rd was a perfect example of how our first responders, our police officers, were able to respond and get our city, make sure our city was protected and safe. So, the proper training and continual training of our officers is so important, and that we can react and be proactive in anything that may happen within our community.
Oscar, the Amazon distribution center is going to be quite a boon to the local economy. If you're returned to office, do you have initiatives that you have in mind to help us attract higher paying jobs to our community?
Amazon is a great addition to our workforce, and we need it. It's very important. But again, when we talk about the taxpayers and the tax base, that if we continue to grow outside the city limits, we'll never be able to reduce the taxes for our homeowners that are really struggling, especially during the pandemic.
What type of industry do you think El Paso is missing that you think that we could have? And are there any kind of specific companies that you would like to see set up shop in El Paso?
Well, there's a lot of companies that we need to go out and talk to. There's, but when I was running for office originally, the media would come up to me and say, "Hey, Oscar, what are you going to do to create jobs?" And I said, "I'm going to go out and I'm going to knock on doors. I'm going to go around the country. I'm going to travel around the country, knock on doors, and try to earn someone's business, earn their business to come to El Paso." We actually went out and knocked on doors. The Mayor Waters and I literally went out all over the country and talked to companies that were considering expanding somewhere. We met with UTEP. We met with community college, and we talked to them when these businesses came. How do we make sure that the graduates, the curriculums for the schools meet the companies that are coming to El Paso? And if they didn't meet them, how do we make sure that we have that curriculum to make sure when they graduate, those businesses and those opportunities are here in our community? And we're able to do that. And we're going to continue to do that, because that is the importance of growing our economy and creating jobs and looking at companies that are looking to expand, because there's a lot of them that are looking to go somewhere. And El Paso is a wonderful and a great place to be.
Is there a great white whale of a company that you would like to lure and catch in El Paso?
Well, there's a lot of companies that we need to look at in and one of the things that we look at is manufacturing is so important, and we need to go out and talk to companies that are going to expand into the manufacturing business to bring them to El Paso.
Oscar, let me ask you a kind of a hypothetical question, and that is if someone were to give a grant to the city council for $1 million that could be spent any way you wanted to spend it, how would you spend that $1 million?
Well, I would sit down and talk to all the council members. It's important that we grow together as a council. So what businesses around your area, around the city, we can't just grow in one area of El Paso. We need to grow everywhere. So what businesses are struggling? What business can we help grow and make sure if that door's closed and it's not open, what kind of incentive from that $1 million that it won't be hypothetical, by the way, Mike. We will get the money to make sure we reopen these businesses, we create opportunities, but we're going to do it as a whole. And it's not going to be just me arbitrarily making that decision. It will be based on council and their needs in their areas of the city of El Paso.
Seems like politics and pretty much the world in general, especially here in the U.S., is becoming more polarized politically. What would you do as mayor to try and get people who maybe feel hopeless about the way things are? How do you get them re-engaged in the political process?
Well, it's really a great question because people look at me and says, Oscar, you have an active business. You have a great business out there. Why would you want to run? Because of the personal attacks, the attacks you take on the business, because I want to give back. And we got to continue to find people that want to give back and really treat people with respect. That's the thing. We shouldn't disrespect each other because we're running for office. That's not the way to run for office. Really, we need to build value in ourselves and build value in what we're able to do and not try to destroy other people, because that's why people don't want to run. I mean, can you imagine running for office and someone's attacking your business, attacking your character, or attacking your family? That's why we need to really earn people's trust in business and their vote based on your qualifications.
And our thanks to Oscar Leeser.